Welcome to Daily Flash. I am Matt Doolittle. We are joined by a guest, Peggy Lene today. And the reason you're on here is there's a big movie premiere that we're going to get to real quick. And then we're going to talk more about the subject matter because it is that time of year. It's a big premiere from Universal, The Last Voyage of Demeter. Check it out.
The Demeter, on charter from Romania to London. Shipping private crates. Contents unknown. Out at sea with no land in sight.
This here is Clemens. He's a doctor.
You dress like a learned man.
University of Cambridge. I know my way around the boat.
Our charter has agreed to pay a bonus for timely arrival in London.
Let me show you the ship. This here is Huckleberry. We don't come with like this to give the ewes clear.
Demeter's a fine boat, no doubt. Something ripped apart the animals.
All the livestock.
This looks like a bite.
Search the ship. Everywhere. Evil is on board. Powerful evil.
In the night, it drinks our blood. He is here. We call him Dracula.
He's coming!
Did you see the size of that bloody thing?
I'm gonna kill the cursed thing.
He is on this ship, which means that we will never leave it.
The devil is real. May God have mercy on us all.
That's The Last Voyage of Demeter, and Peggy is joining us to talk a little bit about the subject matter. Welcome, Peggy.
Welcome. Thank you.
Now, you're the director of various paranormal teams, which just sounds cool. So give us a little bit of your background in this different realm, I should say.
Absolutely. Well, I first became interested in the paranormal when I was a nurse because there's a lot of spooky things that would happen in hospitals and nursing homes. And it just caught my attention and my curiosity. And this was even before the ghost shows were popular. If you fast forward into about 15 years ago, started a paranormal team that became very active and the largest in Ohio, still exists, Ohio Ghost Hunters. Really, in some form or fashion, been around longer than that. The dedication is to helping people with haunted homes, but we also throw in some fun trips, and this was supposed to be a fun trip.
Oh, supposed to be. So just quick on the trip. Now, everybody's heard the lure of, the castle in Romania, Bran Castle. So tell us how you ended up going to this legendary, mythical place on the other side of the world.
So I've been involved in the world's largest ghost hunt, which first started in 2016. And there are concurrent ghost hunts that occur across the entire planet simultaneously with the thought that we can kind of raise the energy and get a greater response. And indeed, it has proved to be true. And on this particular year, the director for the ghost hunt said, I need somebody to cover Bran Castle in Romania. And I just said, my team might do it.
Yeah.
And I've been checking with them.
Yeah.
And then I checked with them and they're like, yeah, let's do it. So next thing you know, we're on a plane to Romania.
That's crazy. Now going there, I've had friends that tried to get me to go to Salem over Halloween, and I'm like, I'm good. Going over there, when you get to this now, where I know Transylvania, it's always got that realm to it. It's Romania, but how is the vibe out there when you walk into that town? Are they kind of like great, more tourists, or is it Have they kind of accepted that this is what it is?
Wow, that's a loaded question. And I'll say that that's what sets this investigation apart from all others. All others. I'll first say that the Romanian people are absolutely lovely. The towns are gorgeous. They're exactly what you would imagine from a small town in the Transylvanian mountains. Indeed, that's where we were. Now, that's the good part.
Okay.
The vibe is absolutely eerie. We actually, by the end of the trip, felt that our entire trip was cursed.
Whoa.
We had one issue after another. We had heard stories about a town not too far from the castle that they actually still believe in curses and handle things the old school way. And about a few years before we were there, they decided to attribute their curse of the town to one individual who had died. So they unburied him, removed his heart, and put him back in the ground, and the curse activity for them stopped. So they still go old school on many things. The entire area is mountainous and spooky, and you just can't get away from it.
And so you're walking through there, you get all of your, your vibes, your readings. Now you finally get to the castle. Do they do tours? Are you allowed in? Was this a special like access, or how do you get into, I just want to say Castle Vampire, but it's Brand Castle or Castle, he went under a bunch of names, right?
Yeah.
It was Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Tepes. We all know him as Count Dracula, as he's been, cinematized over the decades. So what do they kind of call it, and how do they introduce you to, hey, welcome to Brand Castle?
So they almost treat it as if you were taking a tour of the White House. If you're a local, if you're from Romania, you see this as the castle of Queen Marie. She's beloved, and they really focus on that side of history. They don't so much play up the Dracula part. Of course, that attracts people worldwide, but the tour is in a castle that is very well preserved, and anyone can go anytime during the day. We had special access just for us after hours, though, so we had it in the dark.
I don't want to do that, but tell me how that was. Like you're, and I know you go in and you were showing people how to properly do paranormal testing, or explain that when you go in and start taking the readings and everything. Because immediately everybody thinks Ghostbusters and they're walking around like that. But what's kind of the real version of that, or the TV shows on any?
So usually we're arriving at a site in our cars. We pull up in the driveway or the parking lot, and we just walk in. In this case, we park, and you have maybe 100 stairs. You have to climb and climb and climb and climb. And it's just this looming huge castle built into limestone, which is believed to attract energy, paranormal energy. And so your whole time your eyes are set on this castle, and it's getting closer and closer and bigger. And then you walk in, and you're in this little ante room. And then you are guided on into an area that we set up our equipment. So one thing we want to do to start the investigation is to establish a baseline. And so we are checking for EMF, the different radio frequencies, if you will, so that we don't mistakenly call that paranormal activity when it's just part of the natural. So between that and getting to know the history of the site, those are the first couple of things that we would do, and of course walk with a tour and acquaint ourselves with the layout of the facility as well.
What kind of readings were you getting? What was it just all over the place, or was Vlad taking a nap that day, or how did that work out?
So pre-investigation, it was, and I mean no pun, it was dead. Nothing was coming through. The entire place is built of rock. In fact, there are certain hallways that you go down, and the halls are lined with rock wall from 1,000 years ago. So nothing is going to get through unless it wants to get through. Kick on the switch for doing our investigation. And we had some natural phenomena. What I mean by that is footsteps, things we could hear. things we could see. We also had dowsing rod activity, and we have a spirit box that scans to pick up voices. And again, it's not picking up anything so to have something come through during an investigation is pretty convincing in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. And did something come through while you were there?
Yes, a lot of Romanian language in answers to our questions, which we've not been able to solve. And here's the curious thing why. The language has evolved, just like we have Old English, Middle English, and Current English.
Oh, yeah.
Their language has evolved too. So it's practically impossible to find someone who can tell us what these folks were saying. I find that interesting because if they were speaking in modern day Romanian, or if we were picking up something off a radio, people would know exactly what they say.
Yeah, wouldn't that kind of throw it off too if they were actually speaking in modern day? It'd be like, I don't think you're from the 1400s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now you go through all this. Now, when you leave, is there just a feeling of like all this coming off of you, or these bad vibes, or this like eerie feeling, and you just like take a breath of fresh air to be out of there?
So when we were there, when we would look out and you can see the lawn, there's a hilly lawn surrounding the castle. And while we were there, when we would look out, we actually could see soldiers from long ago. Like the whole yard was just filled with these ghostly images of these soldiers. And so at the end of the investigation, to pack up and know we had to walk through what might be there was a little bit daunting.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of exhausting. We had a lot of energy taken and used up of our own, trying to navigate through this big castle and interact with these ancient spirits.
Sort of an energy vampire sucking you dry out there.
Exactly.
Now, obviously, we've got the movie coming out. The last voyage of Demeter. We've had a lot of incarnations of vampire. Nick Cage just played one. I watch a TV show with them on it every week. It started with Nosferatu and the classic Universal telling with the big neck thing and all that. Like, how did you feel like they wanted the story of Vlad told, or how did that come across in terms of how it's been just changed over the years?
So the castle doesn't want to tell the story of Vlad, believe it or not.
They want it. They don't. It's not like there's a gift shop at the end where you can buy a Vlad t-shirt or anything, right?
I'm not exactly sure. I think there was at the bottom.
Because you go to Alcatraz and they're like, buy t-shirts of a prison. I would figure you leave there, they're like, get a vampire t-shirt. Yeah.
Yes, they like to focus on all of the other history, but they know that the legend of Dracula is what attracts many people who aren't originally from Romania. So They do throw in that in the end. But there's actually a lot of, if you're a historian, there's a lot of very interesting history to the country of Romania, and they like to tell that part of the story.
Yeah, and when you came back and you start telling this, did anything follow you? Because I've heard of paranormal experts in the past saying, and it's not to make a ride joke where you take a ghost home with you, but do you feel like something may have followed you, or like, kind of stayed with you?
Well, as I mentioned, the whole trip was cursed from the time we got there to the time we were trying to leave. And we even had issues in trying to leave. I mean,
was it equipment? Were people tripping? Was just somebody not feeling well?
Oh, my goodness. It was inexplicably our cameraman, all of his equipment was lost. It took 2 days for them to find it and send it. And this is a major airline. Yes, everybody can, have lost equipment. In and of itself, that's not the only, thing. But then we had car breakdowns. We had that car just inexplicably stop at the top of a mountain, and we were rolling down it backwards. That was frightening. We had personality changes. We were at each other's throats. I mean, we were not ourselves. There was one good night where we kind of felt like, let's just hit the reset button. And we sat around, it was in the fall, early fall, and we sat around a fireplace and we were drinking wine. We had just like, we refreshed our relationship, and it didn't last long. We could not get home. They, again, inexplicably, seats got canceled. People got moved to other flights. and we had team members in tears. I mean, who never cry,
They're just
including
done.
some of the men. I mean, it was awful. It was a cursed trip.
What was, besides being cursed, obviously, what's one thing that kind of surprised you about it overall? Like to kind of wrap up the trip and what you were able to bring back and kind of apply to the paranormal community, the vampire community. Like what were you kind of surprised to learn over there that you could give out to everybody?
So in the torture room is where we had the most interaction with yes, no questions. And we were using both the spirit box and some dowsing rods. It is unclear to the historians where Vlad interacts with this castle. Some say, oh, he's never been there. But there's a lot of information actually locally that he was there, but they think he was imprisoned there at one point too. They think he went there for refuge. They think he also was imprisoned there. And so I inquired into that and received several responses that he was indeed there and that he had been there as a prisoner.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm sure you've got a lot of other adventures that people want to check out. Where should we go to find more about your paranormal teams and a little bit more on this?
Sure. We have a YouTube channel, Spirit Bridge Project. So just search for that and you'll see some videos from our other investigations and reach out to us from there.
And one last question. Now, obviously, you're going to go see the movie, right? The Last Voyage of Demeter. Because you got to be. Do you go in and go, that's not right. That's right. That's not right. Because I mean, obviously, you got to do your history on the overall subject. Is it what? Can you go in there and kind of nitpick stuff, or do you just go and enjoy it and take it for what it is?
I think it's most important to just enjoy it. That's someone's story to tell, and I'm going to enjoy it. We were never alive back in the day, so who knows?
And if you go over to Romania to go see the castle, number one thing is expect to be cursed, but just go with it, right?
Yeah, just write it.
Awesome. Thank you, Peggy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.